I keep trying to warn you guys. Your little open mic opinions are going to be the end of some of you. What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another Comedy Tip Tuesday. Okay, I'm woman enough to admit it's Wednesday, but God bless America. At least be thankful that I did my hair, sorta, today. Anyway, this is Thai Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we get started, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me on the algorithm. If you really love me, just put in the comments, thank you for doing your hair. I was busy last week. I was in Austin, Texas, if you didn't know. Before that, I was in El Paso for the weekend. So I have been busy, and I haven't been able to record content. I'll get to it. I'm obviously getting to it now, even though it's going to be a day late. And then Unbothered is going to be on Thursday instead of Wednesday. And we're all just going to have to live with it. We're all just going to have to accept that these things happen sometimes. Sometimes mommy has to work. You know how it go, booty hoe. Anyway, I want to talk about being cool with other comics and why that's important and why sometimes nobody needs to hear your opinions. I don't know any other way to put it, but you've got to be cool with the other comics on some level. Don't click up. That's not what I'm saying. You don't have to be part of a clique or a crew. Actually, it's better to just be an individual and just rely on yourself and what you're doing. But some of these opinions are really going to get you guys in trouble because nobody cares. But anyway, I'm going to start off with the question. The question was left on the last video. Trent Bab Comedy commented on my last YouTube video and he said, "Hey Ty, big fan of your advice to comics. I'm an aspiring clean comedian and have produced clean shows in the Fresno, California area for a few years. My question to you is, what are some of the best practices you've experienced in promoting and executing clean comedy? I keep having this problem where I have a decent turnout, but during the shows, one or two audience members will shout, 'Go dirty.' Even when someone doesn't shout that, the overall mood of the room is uptight and unwilling to laugh at the lighter topics. Thanks, Ty. Take care." First off, thank you, Trent, and I'm glad you're a fan of what I'm doing over here. And I'm going to tell you, clean shows can be a tough sell. You're already getting a decent audience out there, which you've said. Fresno, I performed in Fresno many times. When I was living in LA, I would always go to Fresno, Bakersfield, those areas. And I know what you're talking about because they're kind of rowdy out there and they do like dirty. But the main thing I would do is outside of the marketing of the show, because if you're somewhat relying on the fact that it's a clean show to get people out there, then there's people that are down for it. I would imagine it's in your marketing now. If it's not, then strike whatever I'm saying and just go with what I'm about to give you for the entire thing. Because to me, the best clean comedy is the one that isn't announced. And the one that you just afterwards are like, wow, that guy was clean. Like, for example, Jerry Seinfeld is known as one of the funniest comedians ever. And he never really announces the fact that he's clean. He just doesn't curse, and it's not really a thing. Jim Gaffigan is another one that it's not really what he sells himself on. A lot of people will mention it in reference to him because it is pretty amazing that he's actually that good without having to do that. But I really would, especially at the show, downplay that. Mention it as little as possible. Have the comics mention it as little as possible so that the audience forgets that they're at a clean show and just feels like they're at a show. That's what I honestly would say. I wouldn't make an announcement at the beginning of the show like all of the comics are going to be clean. What you're about to see is family friendly. You've already put it in the flyer, so just assume that everybody knows that's what the deal is and act accordingly. That's what I would tell you, because if you keep pressing it, that unless you're going to do it in a fun way the entire time, which I've done before at clean shows and had a really good time with it, where I've just been like, look, you guys, if I go on with this bit, I'm going to get in trouble. So, like, that's what my best advice would be, just to downplay the clean part and concentrate on the fact that it's just comedy. It's going to be a tough sell either way because people do want dirty and edgy in a lot of cases, but just downplay the fact that it was clean and keep it clean and have the comics keep it clean. That's what my advice would be. But like I said, I know it's a tough sell, but once you get it really going and you figure it out, I think you're going to be golden, and clean comedy is a very important tool. I've told people before, even as dirty and edgy as I am, I can do clean. You just got to pay me a lot to do it at this point. But I mean, like, I think it's a very important skill, and I think clean comedy can be as good, if not better, than dirty, edgy comedy if it's done right. That's my personal feeling. So I hope that helps out, and good luck with your show out in Fresno. Maybe I'll actually stop by the next time I'm in Fresno. I do press box every once in a while, which I usually work out like a Thursday with them and just do a one-off my own show. But I don't know if Chris Cruz is still out there doing press box, the other location, because the one I do is on Fig Garden, I think is what it's called. Anyway, that would be my advice. Thanks for the comment, Trent, and good luck. Okay, so I bring this up because here's something people don't understand, and I keep trying to drive it home for you guys. If you're new to comedy, stop with your goddamn opinions and stop trying to act like you're part of some in crowd because you're meeting the local comics. Nobody cares. And like I say, don't really click up with anybody, but at the same time, people have to like you in order for them to feel like, I want to take this person on the road. I want to introduce this person to bigger comics. And also, when you're meeting comics that have been working longer or are actually professional comics, slow down on the opinions. Just stop yourself from talking for a while and actually learn. I don't know why I keep having to express this in different ways, but it is truly necessary. I just had it happen to me when I was in El Paso. I'm headlining a weekend's worth of shows at El Paso at the comic strip. Thank you, Bart Reed. And what happened was, I'm sitting outside between the early and the late show. The late show has already started, so it's between the times that I have to go up. So I think Bruce Leonard, who I took with me to feature for me, is on stage at this point. And some guy walks out with his attitude, and at first I thought he was just a regular audience member, which regular audience members are pretty much off limits for me. I really won't get into it with them. I'll let them just do and say what they want because they're audience members. They're buying drinks, they bought tickets, whatever. So this guy comes out and he's very pushy in the way he asked me for a lighter. It was annoying and it was off-putting. It was sort of like a gimme a lighter type vibe, even though he may have asked for it. I don't remember his exact words. I just remember him having this bad attitude. And, you know, I just lit a cigarette, so I was fine to give him my lighter and let him use it really quick. So then I'm sitting sideways in these big chairs because they have these big lawn chairs, but they're all stacked on top of each other because obviously there's not going to be a lot of people outside during the show. And it was really hot in El Paso, well, humid. And so I'm sitting sideways on this chair. There's nobody else outside except for me and a few comics are sitting out there like Bonchi, who was the opener. So I get along really well with the El Paso comics. I always have. I've been going there for 10 years now. And so this guy all of a sudden looks at me a few seconds after handing me my lighter back and is like, so how long do I have to be in comedy to actually sit in a King Lear stance? And I just looked at him and I was like, yeah, I just kind of sit however I want. It's not something I think about. And then he was like, oh, okay. And that really was the way he said it. And that really was the way he was acting. And so I was getting a little annoyed. But like I said, I still thought he was an audience member. So then Ponchi is like, hey, this is so-and-so. He's one of the local comics, newer guy, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, cool, in my head. But also I'm thinking, then I will not talk to this guy. Because if this is his attitude as a new comic, which to me translates to open micer, I don't really care what you think of the way I sit. I don't care what you think of anything that I do. So for me, you're a non-issue completely, and I don't know why you're even talking to me. And the reason I bring this up is because you'll hear it all the time, where people will be like, such and such headliner came here, and he didn't talk to any of the open micers. He didn't talk to any of the new comics. He just stayed in the green room all the time. Well, this is why. This is exactly why. Because one of you open micers is going to come up to a headliner on some fuck shit, not realizing that this person has been in comedy for 19 years, and maybe isn't in the mood for your shit in between shows. I'm not one of your little friends. I don't care about your opinions. I don't care what you think of the way I'm sitting. I don't care what you think of what you've heard about me on the internet. I don't care about any of that. I'm a comic just there to work, and I am very cool with a lot of the open mic comics and newer comics that are in El Paso. Contrary to what you may have heard about me on the internet, I am very cool when I first meet people. I don't have a problem with treating people that are newer to comedy as if they're my equals, even though I know comedically they are not. Even though experience-wise, I know they are not. Really, I do have a right to just be like, I don't want to talk to you. And if you want to know the truth, I could have just asked the owner, who's there all the time, Bart Reed, who I just mentioned, hey, can you get this kid out of here from my show? I'm sure he didn't pay for a ticket. He's just here as an open micer, supposedly here to learn, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. If you're an open micer or a newer comic at a professional show, rather than try to argue with people, how about you sit and learn? How about you watch the set and actually see how things work, instead of trying to inject yourself and give me your shitty opinion that I never asked for, I don't care about, I'll probably never see you again. So later on, I end up hearing this guy is only 6 months in. Let me tell you what happened next, though, on the patio. If somebody mentioned that Carlos Mencia is going to be at the club the following week, that's while that guy is still out there. And that guy is like, I'm going to fight him in the parking lot. I mean, you think they'd let me fight Carlos Mencia in the parking lot? And literally, this is what he's saying. And it's like, what the hell is the matter with you? You're a new comic. You want to get yourself into some trouble and get yourself banned in a small, because like it's a small city. It's not like there's a lot of stuff to do in El Paso. Nothing against El Paso, because I do like El Paso. I already told you guys. And I know that Nico and some of the other comics in El Paso are really doing their best to build up the scene. And I hear there's a new comedy club there. I haven't seen it. I haven't been to it yet, but I don't even know if it's fully open yet. But it's like the scene is trying to grow, but there are limited opportunities in that city. And the comic strip has been around forever. They're having Carlos Mencia there. You can feel however you want to feel about Carlos Mencia and whatever his reputation is and the Joe Rogan thing and all of that. We all have feelings. Every comic I know has feelings about that. But you have to remember that he's still a guest of the club. He's still a headliner of the club. And whether you like it or not, he still will sell out the shows that he's going to do. So if you think that you're going to get in a fight in the parking lot with one of the headlining comedians that, whether you like it or not, does have credits, has done some stuff, and will sell out the show, and everything's just going to go on like nothing afterwards, you are clueless to the way that anything works out. And that's why I say, instead of opening your mouth, how about you just shut up and learn the way that things work? I told you guys, I'm like this now because I've been doing this for 19 years. But in a lot of instances, I still keep my mouth shut. I don't always have to voice my opinions to everybody. On my social media, will I say things that I feel? Of course, that's what social media is for. It's my social media. But when I'm out in public, I behave myself the way that I'm supposed to behave so I can continue to work, because I'm a professional. And for me, there's no consequence to a lot of things because I just don't care about a lot of stuff at this point. I can either work a club or not work a club. But if I choose to work a club, I'm going to be respectful. If I choose to be at a club, I'm going to be respectful. If I choose to be in the presence of other people, whether I like them or not, I'm still going to be respectful. I'm not going out of my way to be rude with people. I'm not talking about who I want to fight, who I want to get into it with, who I want to argue with. Anybody that thinks that about me doesn't know anything about me. So really, the fact is, I'm giving you good advice that's not only good advice for you, but good advice that I remind myself of as well. I can have these opinions too. I'm not going to badmouth Carlos Mencia while I'm at the club because I know that Carlos Mencia is going to make money for that club. I'm working that club the week before. It looks bad. It's not a good look. And a lot of audience members don't know and don't care about that, and they don't need to be involved in it. So why would I even bring it up? Why would it even be a thing? And especially when you're talking about, I'm going to fight you. I don't know what Carlos Mencia is like, but I know he's raised in East LA, so I'd imagine he's fought a little bit. I mean, I don't think he was going to be able to take Rogan if that hadn't gotten physical, but I'm pretty sure he could have taken this open micer. So anyway, just keep your opinions to yourself and stop being stupid and stop trying to be the big shot. So Sunday, I go to brunch with some of the comics. One of the comics mentioned it because he had been there, and he was like, yeah, that guy was stupid, and he's only been doing it for 6 months, and really, nobody even hangs out with him like that. It's not like we all just know him. He's just a guy that's around and kind of bitter for no reason, which if you're 6 months in and you're already bitter about stuff, you are not going to last in this business. I hate to tell you, but it just doesn't work that way. Like, you're gonna really hate life when you're 5 years in, 10 years in, which unless you go viral or something big happens for you, you're gonna be working your way up the ladder and you're already off to a shitty start. So that's what it is. You've already missed the first rung of the ladder and hit your shin, and you're going to have a bad attitude for the rest of the day. That's what it is. So somebody mentions that had happened, and then they ask me about it because we're all sitting at a table together, and I'm like, yeah. And I go into the annoying, and then somebody else is like, yeah, and he was saying he was going to fight Carlos Mencia. And so when I get there later that night, he ends up showing up, and I immediately tell security, I'm not in the mood to deal with this guy tonight, so I don't care if he just comes over and says hi or something like that, but if anything at all smart comes out of his mouth, please just get him out of here. I want to enjoy a cigarette on the patio. I don't want to humor this guy on any level, which security is completely cool with that. They're like, yeah, of course. Yeah, he shouldn't be bugging you anyway. So one of the senior comics on the scene approaches him before he even gets to the parking lot because he was one of the ones that was at lunch with us, and he tells him, like, you know, hey, you pissed, because, like, he pissed off everybody that was sitting out there. Whether he realized that or not at the time, he pissed off everybody that was sitting out there. It wasn't just me that was annoyed. It was me and the other comics that were around, which wasn't a big group. It was probably at the most 3 or 4 of us when we're all out there together. And everybody's already annoyed with this guy, and we started shutting him out the night before. So then he shows up on this night, and, you know, in the parking lot, the other comic approaches him, gives him a couple quick pointers, lets him know that he got on people's nerves, whatever. So he approaches me, and security's sitting right there, and he's like, hey, I heard that I might have offended you last night, and I was drinking a bit last night, and I'm not the best with words, because I'm not clowning him for the apology. Technically, I think that's the most mature thing he did, was try to apologize. But let me get to the shitty apology. So he says, like, you know, I'm not the best with words, but, you know, I was just giving you a hard time because, you know, it's like me and the other comedians that hang out here. Like, if somebody new comes around, then that's just my natural thing, is to give them a hard time. And I felt like, motherfucker, you're a typical open micer getting mad at other comics for doing the road, for working in stand-up. Because if we all did that to each other, we'd all just be shitty with each other all the time. You can't fault somebody for being a working comic, for not living in your city. So what? You thought you were going to shit on me because I don't live in El Paso? Because I'm not an El Paso local? You think that that's a good reason to shit on me, a touring comic that happens to be in your city and is cool with all the other comics? But for some reason, you're now the decider because you're there every week for the last 6 months. Well, let's see if I had taken that attitude towards you and been like, I've been coming to this club for 10 years and this is the first time I'm ever seeing you, so let me shit on you for a little while. And no, that's not the way it's supposed to work. And it's typical open mic thinking. And the reason that I say you should keep your mouth shut and just mind your business. Pay attention to the way things work before you start trying to jump into the game. So what happened was, by no call from me or anything like that, just because everybody had witnessed his behavior last night and it had gotten around the club, everybody just started ignoring him for the rest of the night. And you saw him trying to start conversations with people. He even tried to start a conversation with me at a point, and I just stared off into space because other comics were talking, and I would rather pay attention to people that actually have positive energy, people that are actually cool, people that actually get it, people that are actually trying to get better, people that are actually trying to figure out how the business works, rather than concentrate on this person that I really don't want to hear from. I didn't care for his shitty apology. I didn't care for his justification for the reason that he behaved the way that he behaved. Really, I didn't need any kind of justification. You should have just said, I'm sorry, and left it at that and shut up, because your justification was bullshit. And so that's why I say, stop hanging yourselves before you've even gotten started in this business, because that's exactly what he's doing. Because, I mean, like, from then on out, anytime I see that guy, if I recognize him, because I have a crappy memory, but if I hear his name, I'll remember that name, because that one just stuck with me because it was so annoying. But, you know, anytime I hear this guy's name, I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't want him around. Anytime I'm in El Paso, if I hear that guy's name, I'm just going to be like, yeah, I don't want him around me. He's not supposed to be in the green room. I don't want him sitting next to me on the patio. I don't want him asking me for a lighter. I don't want anything to do with this guy. And if he continues to make that impression on other people, or if other people that are the locals there decide to treat him accordingly because they had their own incident with him, because there was another comedian that was very not happy with him as well, and was just like, yeah, nobody cares about your opinion 6 months in. Because, you know, there's plenty of comics on the El Paso scene that I've known for 10 years or longer. So, because, you know, they traveled to LA, or I met them before I started going to El Paso. Because I've been working Texas for a long time. I've been working Texas for probably closer to 15 years working Texas. El Paso specifically, I want to say it's been 10. But 15 years is how long I've been working in Texas. So I've known a lot of these comics for a long time. They're 15 years in, they're 10 years in, they're 8 years in, 9 years in. And then you've got this 6-month comic that's getting on people's nerves and talking about fighting Carlos Mencia. How stupid are you? How clueless can you be? Keep your mouth shut. Watch what you're doing. Learn how to interact with people. If you're a little socially awkward, nobody cares. Most comics are a little socially awkward. Not really so much me. I guess in moments. I don't know. Anyway, that's your Comedy Tip Tuesday. I hope you guys take this one the way that it's meant, because I feel like this one is the most important, and I'm glad I got a little passionate in the way that I was saying it, because that's the way I feel about it. I'm just so tired of new comics acting like they know something and thinking that comedians that are working should be punished or ostracized because they're working the road. That's something I used to hear all the time in LA, where they'd be like, oh, you think just because you're working the road, you can tell me how comedy works? Well, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that real comedy was only happening in the open mics. I didn't realize that if I'm not hanging out in rooms full of comics, not getting laughs night after night, I'm not a comedian. I didn't realize that actually working in comedy makes it so that I'm not a comedian in your book. Anyway, this has been Thai Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.